the special meeting of the Washington Housing Commission is now called to order as we have a quorum online and in person. So the purpose of this meeting is to discuss a proposal for a feasibility study for the property that has been donated to the Washington Community Housing Trust off of Wickham Road, and for a feasibility study to be done by that. And we have here Bill Fairburn, who will give us some information about that, the proposal.
Yeah, so let's start at the beginning. So we received this donation about a month ago. There's still an issue with the lot line revision hasn't gone through apparently yet, but you know, we actually own the land. So we wanted to get going on a feasibility study to, find out exactly what we could do there in terms of, units of housing, whether they be multifamily or single family. So we sent a request for proposals to 3 engineers. We received 2 responses, and the committee chose Haley Ward, which is the local engineer there in Winston. Has been there for 20-something odd years. I know I had some dealings with him way back when, but he's also affiliated. Haley Ward is a national engineering firm, so it's very reputable, great reputation. So we reviewed their application and the other application and chose them as the engineers for this project. The scope of services, which is contained on page 1 and then goes over to page 2, outlines, exactly how, they would perform here. And I don't want to read it in, but, essentially they would, it says coordinate with the client surveyor to prepare a survey of the property, which has been done. Field walk the property, observe existing conditions, review all the town zoning wetlands regulations that they pertain to multifamily. Prepare a base map showing the property boundaries, topography, wetlands, required building setbacks and other zoning restrictions. And we already have, the soil scientist is already in the process of going out there to do the work. Also contact Aquarian Water Company for discussion on a potential connection to the Judea line that runs up to the green. Develop initial plans showing potential driveway access, building blocks, parking areas, and select initial areas for the soil testing. Prepare initial estimate of sewer design flow, conduct a preliminary round of soil testing. They anticipate 20 to 25 deep pit tests and 10 to 15 perk tests. Prepare a concept plan, which is critical, showing buildings, driveway access, parking, preliminary grading, preliminary stormwater management, and potential septic system areas. Quantify impact to wetlands and to regulation on upland review areas. Prepare a concise report describing the challenges and opportunities for the development, and attend up to 3 virtual meetings with the client, which is the Washington Community Housing Trust, and other project team members, which during the course of the project, they don't anticipate any outside services at this time that they would need. They have a provision in here for additional services that would have to be contracted for if we request them, which would be a final design, permitting, and environmental evaluation of the wetlands. And the lump sum project fee for this is $23,500. And then we are going to provide certain things, having to do with we have a survey, and that the surveyor would be out to locate all the pit tests and all the rest of that.
So the housing trust is going to be doing that stuff.
Right, and then we'll get a price on that and come back to you for, whatever that is in addition.
Okay.
It shouldn't be a very large amount.
Okay.
Hey, Judy,
Yes.
this is Daryl.
Oh, I'm looking for you. Oh, we are on iPhone.
Sorry, I'm on the side of the road in my truck. I'm in the middle of another meeting. Can I just vote yes? Because I've got to get back to this other meeting.
Make a motion.
Okay,
Second it.
somebody make a motion to accept this proposal.
So moved.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so,
Go ahead and vote.
Yeah.
Go ahead and call it, and we can still talk about it after.
okay, well, is there any, but if there is any discussion, does anybody have any questions? Are you ready to vote?
I
Aye.
guess vote. I had time to read this ahead of time. Thank you, and I
Okay,
have no
Okay.
burning questions.
so all in favor of the motion to accept this proposal of the Haley Ward Engineering Company to perform this feasibility study? Raise your hand.
I,
And I, okay.
Thank you,
Anybody
Daryl.
opposed? Nobody's opposed. Okay, so that passes.
Okay,
So,
I
Darryl,
mean, I can be happy to answer any questions that might be, resulting from all this. I understand everybody's read this and
yeah,
approves it, so.
yeah.
Bill, can I ask a quick question? Can you just walk us quickly through the steps? This looks like the first step in getting ready. What I'm concerned about is how many steps, what kind of steps are we going to have to take before we take this to the zoning commission?
So what, Charlie, what they'll do is outlined in their, scope of services is, they're going to, as they say, number 9, prepare a concept plan showing buildings, driveway access, parking, et cetera. And then I think, certainly from the housing trust standpoint, we intend to engage with the housing commission, to review what would you like to see here? Do you want to see a mix of multifamily and first-time home buyer? We certainly want to get your input on all that. And then, based on our discussions, what the town would like to see there, then we can go to a final plan and final design and then go into the permitting. So the key to this is to get the actual work done in terms of being able to figure out septic systems, the availability of water, public water versus wells.
Got it. So we've got a number, many more steps to go before we get to that stage.
Yeah, but we're very anxious to get this done as soon as possible so that, funding that may be available from the state. We don't want to miss out on any timelines or anything. And I'm not sure. I'll have to check with David Berto right now on funding that they have available. But we want to move this along as quickly as possible.
So would this ever have to go for a town vote? Or is this simply within the normal procedures of zoning and then it gets carried on from there?
Well, I mean, I would anticipate that the town is going to put money into this project. How much, I don't know. And that would require a town vote.
Okay.
If we have funding, from sales of units and state funding, then, and we don't need funding from the town, then it would simply be a matter of the wetlands and the zoning permits, but it wouldn't be subject to a town meeting.
Yeah.
Unless, we may have to do a town road, something up to a town road, so we may have, in that situation, we'd have to come to the town to ask them to accept the road, but
Okay.
that off the top of my head, that's.
But this proposal itself has to go to the Board of Selectmen and then to the
Yes.
Board of Finance
Right,
or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Board of Finance.
And then it will go to, this will go to a town meeting
right,
because we have a $10,000 threshold spending.
Got it.
threat.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And it is, we
Yeah.
can, it's pretty quick, we can put it on our agenda for next week.
Yeah.
Board of Finance week after that.
Right.
and we'll see.
That's what we're hoping.
But this sounds like, Billy, maybe I'm wrong, but it appears as though this specific process, although it may not give you a complete picture, gives you a lot of knowledge as to what options would be.
yeah, I think the key part of this is we're going to find out in terms of, the key things here are the water. If we can hook into the Aquarian line, that gives us much more flexibility. We don't have the 75 foot separation from the septic fields. And then, based on the number of units that we can do in terms of septic, then it's a discussion with, the housing commission You know, how, you know, if we can get 15 units or 20 units or whatever it is, how would we like to formulate them?
Yeah.
You know, and then again, you know, they talk about it as part of the scope of services is actually doing, you know, a concept showing buildings. I mean, you could do something, if it's multifamily, you could do something very similar to the kind of combination that's out at Dodge Farm. If you're gonna mix in some single family, you know, then that would require some different configurations, but I think that, you know, once we have the
Looks pretty
the
comprehensive.
information on the public health stuff, that really kind of drives the whole thing.
Mhm.
You know, is what can we, you know, what can we do here based on,
Right.
you know, units and that.
Jay?
Just that, I noticed we have some responsibility to provide them with some information in order for them to do this work. On the second, bottom of the second, top of the third page.
Right, that's,
So my question, do we have that stuff already?
yeah, so the property survey, it's
Okay,
all
so
been
we have it.
surveyed,
That's what I just.
which the town didn't have to pay for. And we didn't have to pay for either, but what's gonna happen is, you know, they talk about, you know, 20 to 25 deep pit tests, 10 to 15 perk tests. Those all are gonna have to be located on the survey, the site plan. And at which the, you know, Mike Alex has done the survey, so, you know, he will give us a bill for all that.
So that's on that, I mean, they.
So
they
that's in
said
addition
3
to
months
the,
to do this, I think is what you said, right, something like that.
Yeah,
But only if we have the information that available for him to do it, so that's why I was asking if we have all that information available.
yeah, I mean, you know, that's our responsibility, the housing trust to provide all that. And any costs on it, you know, we'd come back to you for, you know, requesting additional
Yeah,
funding.
it's not that for me, you know, I'm always wanna know, when are we gonna get done? So if we aren't ready to be able, if we don't have this information, but you're saying we do have what they're asking for.
Well, and what we don't have, you know, I mean, they show client supplied items, so it says provide the survey.
You
Well,
have,
survey's done,
right,
that's all done. The test pits, you know, locating them, they have to do that, right? That's their job, that's what they're getting paid to do.
even though it says stake out,
it says us.
Yeah, the stake them out means, you know, they'll go dig them up, but then they gotta be, you know,
somebody has,
stake them and locate them on the site plan. So that's something that we'll do, or have someone do.
And wetlands thing was the other question I had, you know, the wetlands, do we already have the wetlands, a map of?
Right, so we actually have engaged the soil scientists that we used on Baldwin Hill, and I believe they may have already started.
Great.
So I mean, everything that, you know, that needs for us to do, either we've done it or, you know, once.
Great.
I mean, we're not gonna engage people in things until we know that the town's gonna help us pay for this. In other words, they're not gonna do any work until,
I understand.
Yeah.
because we don't have the money to pay them.
Great. Billy, is there a sense, any of these, so not to be redundant, but any of these client supplied items, is there a sense, are you gonna need to any funding for any of those things?
Yeah, we are going to, you know, need, just as we did on Baldwin Hill. You know, Mike Alex is gonna give us a bill for doing all the stakeout and stuff. We'll get a bill from it's going through Mike, but for the wetlands soil scientist. We'll get that bill. You know, they're gonna need a backhoe, an operator.
So what I would respectfully request is, like, the commission attach those items to this, we do this, so, and we can do the 23.5 for this specific proposal, but let's put in any of those needed costs.
Well, here's the issue to move this forward, Jim, is, you know, we don't have, you know. We don't have that information, and what we'll do on this is that we will ask them, you know, they have a backhoe guy. But is to get the contract in place so they can start work, and the work will go, I mean, you know, we'll get the backhoe operator. You know, Mike can give us, Mike is not, you know, is very comfortable knowing he's gonna get paid, so. I mean, rather than go through the process and spend more time and maybe people don't get back to us right away, at least get this done. Or get the project going, and then we
but
can find out.
do you have any sense of how much each of these would cost?
Yeah, I mean, you know, so. You know, I mean, you could have a backhoe operator there, what do they get an hour? I don't know, $100-something an hour? I mean, but I mean, if we're gonna move forward on this, the motion is to get this done.
But why not add an additional $10,000 for ancillary service?
Yeah, I mean,
That's all we're saying, or if it's less than 10, then we can approve it ourselves, right?
That's all I'm saying, Billy, is if we can.
yeah, I mean,
So we're right, we don't wanna go back to another town meeting.
yeah, I mean, I think,
Well,
you know,
Would each of, would these be less than $10,000?
yeah, I mean, the backhoe operator's not gonna be $10,000. You know, Mike Alex's bill's not gonna be 10,000, so we could come in.
Okay, we don't have to do another town meeting.
No, and we can do, you know, Mike's gonna give us a bill,
Yeah.
that's, you know, under 10,000, you know,
Okay.
it might be in phases. Same thing with, you know, the backhoe guy, so, I mean, I don't anticipate any of the items that, you know, are the client supplied items are gonna go over $10,000, you know, per contractor.
Just so you guys remember too, the ordinance reads that once the housing commission, under 10,000 goes to housing and board of selectmen. Doesn't need to go to finance or town.
That's our point. If you're comfortable that any of those costs that Judy had mentioned are gonna be under that,
Yeah,
no problem.
yeah, because that, in terms of evaluating this, the committee, Brad Sedito and me and Ted Bennett, we didn't see that any of these were going to come over 10,000, so that
Great, that's what
we weren't gonna come
Okay.
back.
That's all.
Right, yeah, that we would need to, you know, incorporate that into this.
Okay,
So I have a question, what if anything, in the way of discoveries in this process would stop this project in its tracks?
Well, here's part of it, Woody, depending on where your financing comes through. So if this finance is coming through the state, we're gonna have to do an archaeological study, okay? That's part of the state historical, whatever. If we found all kinds of Indian things there, it would put a delay in, it would cost money. I had a project in Southbury that we were gonna do a 400 unit senior housing project, and they found some Indian artifacts. And it was $50,000 to do the study, and the study was gonna take 2 years. And that among other things killed that project in Southbury. So, I mean, you don't know, I mean, hopefully, you know, there's not gonna be any, I mean, there's never been any construction on the property or buildings. You know, so they're gonna have to do at least a phase 1, but that should come clean. You know, there's no, you know, no.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking about Native American artifacts or anything, but a quantity of wetlands, say, or water that, well, we could work around it maybe, I don't know, and I'd be more comfortable if I felt there was some limits to our risk here.
Well, yeah,
as we build
I mean, the risk is $23,500.
Yeah.
And if it comes back that, you know, I mean, we've looked at the wetlands maps, you know, most of it's mapped out. I mean, I don't anticipate, you know, it might be that you can't do, it's like we ran into in Baldwin Hill. We wanted to do 2 or 3 units. And there's an intermittent stream coming through it, so it's too expensive to bridge the stream to put another unit up above it. So it may limit the number of units you could do on it. But you know, the risk on this is $23,500. And I think it's worth taking the risk.
How far along do you have to be, in this project before you can begin applying for state funds?
Once we get a plan in place, then we'll make an application for whatever funds may be available. You know, we'll just have to see at that time, you know, what's out there for multifamily, what may be out there for single family. And it's sort of that kind of,
and the bigger projects are more likely to be
Right.
approved, right?
yeah, well,
Funded.
right, so in discussions with the Department of Housing. You know, and this is one of the issues we ran into with Baldwin Hill is, you know, they've got to put it almost as much time into a single project as they do for one that's 10, 15, 20 units. And now that has to do with bureaucracy, that's not our issue, but, and we can talk about how the state may want to streamline their whole application process. So what they're doing on that is they're combining the house that we hope to build on Baldwin Hill with 8 other
others.
units in Salisbury and Warren and Norfolk. You know, and we actually had a meeting on that yesterday, a site visit. the Jimmy, thank you for spite.
Did the police show up?
No one got killed, so that was great.
That's an
Yeah.
awful corner. Out there, you were taking your life in your hands.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I took the crease out of my pants a couple times. But, you know, so it really depends, you know, but we want to do a multi-unit project because those are the ones that the state wants to fund. And as Woody said,
And
if
it's what
if
we
we
need.
run into
It's-
a problem, you know, then, you know, but I anticipate on who was Candide, Dr. Pangloss, the eternal optimist, that's me. I always believe there's something that's
Good, Bill.
gonna be fun.
Well, and multifamily is what we need too in town.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting how, you know, and people have come up to me and have seen little things in the paper or something and just, you know, the need. I mean, oh, Mr. Fairburn, you know, we need this so bad. I've got, you know, my children can't, you know, we want to downsize our home and
Yeah.
there's nowhere in Washington we can go that we can afford. I mean, so, you know, I mean, I think you've all documented in your studies,
Yeah.
you know, the needs. So I'm not telling you anything I
Right.
don't know.
Bill, just so you know, on Tuesday night, zoning passed the multifamily,
Did they?
regs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did, and they're, I think, pretty reasonable. I'll be interested as we go through this project. To see if using 8-30G, you know, like, because that can be cumbersome. I know you've done it before,
Yeah,
and
so-
you might not need it, I don't know.
Yeah, so we invited Janet, you know, Hill to come to our housing trust meeting last Wednesday. And we had a great discussion and we've invited her to come, if she got the time, to come to every one of our meetings. So we can talk about, and we talked about the multifamily regulation with her, you know, some of the things that, you know, the input we'd already put in, but, you know, just sort of elaborating on discussions that had already been held. And so, there's two ways to do this. It's to use the multifamily regulations, or you can use 830G, but I think the multifamily regulations we can work with, which would be great.
I don't know how that applies to the single family home portion of it though, so like if you did 10 single family homes and a couple of multifamily, you know, a combined
Right.
project, I don't know.
But at least you still have 830G if you needed to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that you know, the whole issue, you know, this goes back to the whole issue of the unintended consequences of changing the zone regulations in 1978. They never thought, you know, that if we make, you know, the idea was, because there were so many lawsuits going on at that time against communities in Washington, that in Connecticut, that had 10-acre, 5-acre, you know, that had no, just unrealistic, that was keeping up development. And this came from the urban areas that were very, you know, distressed that they were getting, you know, all the young people with children that had to build schools. And so Washington, Ed Peckerman, who was the genius behind this, was that if we base it on the ability of the soil to handle effluent, you know, and then with a minimum lot size, 1.5 acres, well, I mean, all the properties around me on the green are like 0.3 of an acre, 0.6 of an acre.
There's nothing.
They all have
It's not
septic.
conforming.
So, and if you're gonna make zoning based on the ability of the soil to handle effluent, with the new septic systems they have, you can do it on 0.2 of an acre.
Yeah.
So what it did was it drove all the developers, at that time it was passed, Revere Road, H&H Homes in the Milford developed that on the 1 acre lot, and Tom Hackett, who was the president, and I was the town attorney, he said, Bill, we'll never come back to this town again, you're never gonna see development, and you know what? 42 something years later, there's been no development.
Yeah.
And that, so the unintended consequence of that, so clearly, you know, we're gonna work with. In the zoning commission, I'm pretty confident we can work with multifamily.
yeah,
regulations.
agree.
Great.
Was it unanimous?
Yes,
Okay.
it was unanimous.
But it just.
It was unanimous. Well, and I feel like, I know one of your previous one was a friendly 830G, but I feel like using the zoning guidelines as to what the community accepts, you know, zoning, even if you have to use 830G for part of, you know, to get it through, it'll just make it smoother.
Yeah, well-
If you're already conforming with the regs on the books.
Yeah, the danger of 830G is not from nonprofit developers, it's from for-profit developers. I mean, if you know, as the community becomes more and more, you know, filled up with very expensive homes, a developer can get to a point where he can take a piece of property, 30% of the homes have to be affordable, but there's gonna be enough big, expensive whatever mansions that he can write those off. And that's the danger to the town. And the blessing of the multifamily doing this is that once you get, if you can get to 10%, or at least you can get, you can all get extension, but that will take 830G away. But, if you look down at Fairfield County, I mean, the land is so valuable, and that's what's happening here. I mean, at some point, big time developer is gonna come and say, we want to do a bunch of condominiums, like we had at Macrocostas, that was 111 condominiums.
Okay, interesting.
Thank you, Bill.
Anyhow,
Okay, any other questions? or
enough of my
comments?
nonsense. I'm gonna go back to weed whacking, and then I'll finish my hair with the weed whacking. Get that done.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
thank
Housing
you.
Commission, Selectmen for all your
Yeah.
support, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, we're good. We need a motion
All
to
right.
adjourn.
Yeah, thanks so much. Great.
Okay, those two.
I move to adjourn.
You may.
That was a
Thank
good
you.
meeting. That was
It
a great
was.
meeting. I think,
It
I
was.
think I learned more in 10 minutes than I have since I joined the Housing Commission.
Well, I'll tell you,
Then you haven't been paying attention. Here before.
Bill is.
No,
is-
I didn't mean it that way. Come on.
He's such a wealth of information and history of
Yeah,
housing.
yeah. Well, I mean, 'cause he was the town lawyer.
Wait,
know.
he really hit what had been bothering me all the time. Remember, I was saying that one of the convincing ways to get the town to understand what's going on is that if we don't do it, somebody else will. Well,
Yeah.
I think Bill just fairly, in a couple of sentences, fairly framed that out in a
Yeah.
very good way, right? In front of the selectmen too, which is
Yeah.
a great thing.
Yeah. They've been very supportive,
They
This
have
is
Right, absolutely, yeah.
which is great.
So just so you know, the 110 unit development would not be approved. That doesn't meet the multifamily. It's a max
Current ones.
30 units on a state road. Is
Yeah.
what the current zoning says. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's definitely small to medium sized project
Yeah.
focused.
But
Seems-
for us, that really brings us pretty far along the road to our plan, doesn't it? I mean, 30 units.
Well,
Well,
Wickham is a town road, that would be 20, they're looking, this plan says up to 20 units.
20,
So, yeah, so oh yeah, no, once you count the Habitat houses that have come online,
There.
plus the Baldwin Hill. I mean, this
Getting
won't all
close.
be built in the next 2 or 3 years, but to even have it in the pipeline is really
Yeah.
exciting.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Great. Well, thank you,
great,
everybody.
super exciting.
And we have another meeting, the week, a week and a half from now,
Get it in the book.
the second
Yeah.
Tuesday.
On yes.
I don't know,
The 11th?
unless we have nothing to discuss
Well, I have something that I want to add
to the
to
agenda.
to the
Okay.
agenda. Yeah, an ordinance that Bill and Corey, the assessor, and Jen, that we worked on.
Okay.
For tax abatement for the nonprofits that, because they're paying taxes. Property taxes on their developments.
Oh.
So in order to allow that to be abated, we need a town ordinance.
Yeah.
So we had the lawyer, we found, anyway, yeah,
But
so.
Michelle,
Yeah.
Michelle, once the projects are built, and they're essentially labeled as affordable housing, they do have property taxes, right?
Well, they would, but I'm hopeful that you all would support an ordinance that would allow the housing trust. So the way that ordinance would work, because it's based on state statute, they would need to come to the selectmen to apply for an exemption from property tax.
Oh, in perpetuity?
I don't know if, I don't remember if it's a
Well,
yearly or a every so often.
Well, it's the housing trust that owns the
But
property,
it's a housing trust that owns it, so right now,
and they're a
like, we
nonprofit.
just gave $23,000 to the
Okay.
housing trust, they're paying $30,000 in property tax,
Got
like,
it, got
it's a weird.
Yeah.
Right, no,
thing.
I see, that's right, because it's a land lease, that's right.
Yes.
So they
Yes.
continue to own it and they're not profit, right? I get it. All right.
Yeah, yeah, so in order to allow them to be exempt, we need to pass an ordinance.
So that they can continue the good work.
Which would really help their cash flow.
Yeah.
It seems crazy to me that they're paying any
They're
property
losing
tax.
money in some respects.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, from an affordable housing point of view, the new owners, well, the new lessees essentially in those houses, that makes it even more affordable because they're not paying property tax on it.
well, in essence, they never were, I mean, their rents are based on their income. It's 30% of, they can't spend more than 30% of their income on their rents, so their rents are already fixed based on that. And they don't run at a profit, they run at a loss, which
Oh,
is why we
that's-
had to get a grant.
That's to each individual unit. In other words, it's dependable on who's in that unit. So they have to sort of provide annual income verification? Is that what goes on?
I believe so. I
Okay,
think it's annual.
but if they purchase it,
So the how, yeah, those are different,
yeah,
like the Vincent, you know.
yeah,
the
so
house
they own
purchase.
the house.
Yeah,
but
and I
they
believe
don't
though,
own the
and I
property.
believe they don't own the property, and I believe, I'm not sure who's pay, I don't know that those would necessarily be exempted from property
Yeah,
tax, the
we need
single
to,
family.
I think
homes.
we need to find that out.
yeah, that would be useful, right? Okay,
But either way, truthfully, I don't think they should be paying property tax either, but.
you want me to move again? Shall I move?
No, because the meeting is adjourned.